Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the TPCast. As per usual, I am Lane.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Kevin.
And we are Thomas Productions.
Yeah, so this is going to be a slightly different podcast this time. This is episode number 86 for those of you who are keeping track. I think only us, pretty much. But we are recording this podcast remotely via the magical means of the 21st century. Instead of
we just spent like 45 minutes trying to figure out how to get all this done with our nice podcasting microphones.
Instead of being the usual 1.5 feet apart from each other, we're about, 30 yards or so?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not great at distancing, but we live across the street from each other, for those who didn't know.
Yeah, so I guess you could say since our last podcast, there's been a lot that's transpired and a lot that's happened.
When was our last podcast?
It was right as we announced Marlin season 11. So that was in September, the beginning of September.
And that has since premiered and
finished.
Yep.
And finished, yes. So we have some options here. Would you guys like to talk about that stuff first and then move on to kind of media and what we've been doing and consuming and stuff like that?
Well, seeing as this is the TPCast and Marlin is our stuff and other media is not, we should start with our stuff.
You're right. Let's stick to the tried and true methods. So season 11 has come out, and it's 10 episodes, and we had a faster release schedule for that. We wanted to try and instead of like releasing them month by month as we made them, we decided to kind of like stockpile a bunch of them, and then
all of them actually.
Yeah, pretty much all of them, and then release them in quick succession, more like what you would think of a normal TV show or something like that.
I can't remember the exact timing on the episodes, but I think we had filmed all of them before we had even announced that we had any, right?
Yeah. If there was anything that was still being done, it was just like editing stuff on the final episode.
Yeah.
Which is one of our favorites and has been kind of in the works since before Thomas Productions even began, huh?
Yeah, so let's kind of start, maybe kind of go like episode by episode and just give our thoughts on it. So the first episode was called Food for Thought.
The interesting thing, though, is that we shot them in a different order than we premiered them, which I guess is something that we wanted to do because we knew that we were going to have, I guess, the entire season done before we had premiered any of them. So we could kind of make the easy ones first, kind of ease ourselves back into it, and then release them in whatever order we want. So I don't remember the Food for Thought, which episode number that was in like terms of us
order.
Yeah, in terms of us producing it. But once we had it done, I think was when we knew, like, oh, this one should be the first one, and that's how we added. I think there were 2 jokes specific to that episode being the first one, right? Like the very beginning of the episode. I don't remember the exact line, but Marlin is saying something about how it's been such a long wait.
And I hope it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then partway through the episode, there's a line where Lemon Man says something about people don't want to watch Marlin the Elite videos anymore, and then he turns to the camera. I thought that was brilliant, and I love that people were commenting on that and saying like, "Oh man, that hurts."
And
yeah,
we started filming. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I want to say like it was the third or like fourth episode that we made. I'm not positive on that.
Yeah,
I know what the first one was.
Somewhere in the middle like that.
We've forgotten the order that we. I do know which one was the first one and which one was the last one.
I was gonna say we started filming the entire season like a year ahead of time, right?
Yeah, it was September 2018.
Well, we did
or
roughly
August, maybe, I think.
We did roughly one episode per month,
which is what we tried to do anyway in the past. Except this time we hid it away from people so that we could do a more of a weekly release when it was all done. Yeah,
so also I'll read some comments that have been left on some of these videos. Like Brizzly Boy said, this show is my fondest memory of Halo Reach. So that's really nice.
That's excellent, because my fondest memory of Halo Reach is playing it. So having our show be somebody else's, that's great.
Actually, Mythic said, "This is the moment I've been waiting for. It still has the fun and comedy of the older ones. I still love Marlin the Elite."
Yeah, I'm really proud of that it still feels like the same show, except now we've all graduated from film school, and so there's a bit more, what would you say, expertise going into the making of it, but it's still the three of us doing it like we always have.
I'd say at the very least there's a little more thought that has gone into that.
It's more professional, but it's still just as dumb.
It's a good way of putting it.
Thanks.
So moving on to the second episode, that was the Bodyguard episode, A Very Secret Service.
I think that was also the second one that we filmed, or the third.
That seems right to me.
Yeah, I think it might have been the second one. With this one, we knew that after we introduced Marlin's parents, I guess, spoiler alert, we're going to spoil all these episodes in the movie. After we put Marlin's parents in the movie, we knew we wanted to put them in at least one episode of the show, because now that the movie's ended, the rest of the show is taking place after the movie, so we can put them in there. And so we just tried to think about how could we put them in. What's an interesting way to do that? Now, we did already have a Bodyguard episode, but it was completely different from this one. That one was one where I think Marlin was trying to be a bodyguard, and now this one he's hiring somebody. And the fun is that he hires a bodyguard for his parents without telling them, but they've also already hired a bodyguard for themselves. And then without knowing it, the two bodyguards are duking it out. And the two bodyguards have very interesting personalities that are very different. And like one of them is more typical what you'd think, but then the other one we like purposefully don't let you hear like what he sounds like and what his personality is until the end, so it's more of a surprise. And it still makes me laugh when I think about like the last line.
Was it
about him peeing everywhere in the bathroom?
Yeah.
What was the line? Oh, slipping, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next episode after that is the casino episode, Tales from the Casino. I believe this one was like the penultimate episode that we filmed.
Yeah, I think it was the second to last one.
It was like we had gotten through filming a bunch of them, and it was like, hold on, we don't have like an episode with just the three main characters doing anything yet. And it felt like we needed that for the season. And, you know, that was the map. It was like the only one that we hadn't used yet for the show.
Anchor 9.
Anchor 9, yeah. And we were talking a lot about what are some possibilities, and it kind of evolved into a casino. I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but there was it didn't start out as being a casino episode at all.
I can't remember what exactly we were thinking about using the map for before we landed on like a casino or something like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I don't even remember that. I don't remember it evolving into a casino.
But I would have to say, based on how I think all the episodes of this season turned out, I think this one's in my top 3 in terms of like how pleased I am of how it turned out.
Yeah, it turned out really good, although my top 3 might be different from yours. I can think of my top 2 right now, and maybe throughout the rest of it, going through them, I'll think of a third one.
Maybe we'll mention all of ours at the very end.
Okay.
Yeah, and so then the next episode after that was the picnic episode with the grandparents.
That was the first one that we had filmed.
Okay. Yeah. One thing I was wondering is if people could tell that this was the first one that we filmed because of how simple it is. It's one location. The area that we were at had very little, forging on it. It was just so simple. It's just 3-4 characters talking mostly.
And we did it in like 1 or 2 rounds, right? Just the filming of it?
I feel like that was the case.
Yeah,
probably not beneficial for me, but...
It was a really, really simple one just to ease ourselves back into making machinima. And one of the reasons I really like this episode is that it's an idea that I've had for so long. And I remember like pitching this multiple times back when we were doing episodes more often. The idea of the 3 of them going on a picnic and grandma's cooking being so bad that, somebody else comes in and gets her food and goes crazy. And I always thought that was funny and that it would be really easy to do. So I'm really glad that we were able to do it this time.
It's also great that, like, it was the first time we had done Marlin since the movie. So it was like 2 years of us not doing it and going right back into it and making an episode that's just genuinely so funny. Like, there were so many laugh out loud parts in that episode. The thing that jumps out to mind right now is just the ending where they're trying to eulogize this guy who they don't know, and there's some good jokes in there.
I'm happy with how the pacing turned out in terms of like the dialogue and the back and forths.
Yeah, it's a funny one.
Especially the explosion.
I know, and I love that you have like a little extra gas release after he falls. There's like a...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and some of the lines that Kevin was doing for that character was just making us laugh like weeks after we had recorded it. It was what was it?
Was it the oh yeah, I was just keeping it 100 over there.
No, it was like...
Yeah, that was it.
There was another one where he was complaining like
was
freaking kidding me or something like
that. Are you effing kidding me?
That one.
Yeah, that was a good outtake.
And he's
so
like,
then,
oh, I'm so hungry, from far away.
Screaming from far away, trying to get their attention, make them feel sorry for him.
So jumping to the 5th episode, that's the Startup episode.
One of my all-time favorites of all 110 episodes.
I know, this episode from start to finish works so well. Like, everything about it is so funny.
Who came up with the idea for this originally? Do you remember?
Honestly, I don't.
I feel like it might have been me, although I don't want to just come out and say that because I don't remember.
I usually remember when I come up with it, and I'm not feeling like I did, so it must have been Kevin.
Yeah, it might have been me. Although I think we collaborated on, the idea. But just every moment of this one, like, okay, So
From
the
the
way,
second it opens.
yeah, from the second it opens, Marlin walks outside and he goes like, "Oh, what the heck?" And you zoom out and you see all those vehicles and then the giant building, and then Lane, your speech,
Yeah,
as you come out of the building and you're working your way through, getting your way
hold
to
on, I'm
us.
almost there.
Yeah,
And
almost there.
every word that character says, not just in that speech, but the entire episode is so funny, especially at the end when he's like, "They told me that would kill."
Yeah, no,
And
that's
that
what I was
was
gonna
a-
say. Is you make these dumb jokes and then you keep saying, "Oh, they told me," like to say that, blaming them on your stupid jokes that don't work. And then I just love that this really feels like an episode that we could have done in any of the seasons. It's so instantly classic, and I love the gigantic building, and I think we made it as tall as we possibly could, and then I think you had edited it to make it look even bigger.
Yeah, I think I added, because we use those in Forge World, those pretty much like the big walls. So I think I just added like I cut out one in post and then just added it on top so that the building would go out of frame.
Yeah, and then that building was not a practical one. We had a separate map for the inside of the building. And Lane, I want you to talk about this because what we did with that is very interesting. And off the top of my head, not something I think that we have done before.
Yeah, so it's been a while, but we've had I want to say like 3 or so community game events in the past, where we'd invite
We had a lot more than 3.
people who watch our stuff to come play Halo with us, pretty much. And what we've usually done is just create a bunch of custom maps and then pretty much just go play on them. So the inside of the startup facility, the building, is one of those maps that I had created for us to play on during one of these game events. So we repurposed it just ever so slightly, but most of what is seen in the episode is just that map that I had created a really long time ago.
And this episode... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, I'm not sure if anyone would have picked up on that or if they did. But if they did, I would have been impressed because that was a while ago.
Yeah, so this episode also features maybe my favorite line in the whole season, which is the robot voice line. Game released. And that's also, like, I think if you ask me what is my favorite moment of the entire series, I would say it was the episode that we did with the land, the theme park.
Land Thomas?
Land, where I think it was my idea too, where Lane's like, did the filming live action. He's like, it will open its doors on.
Yeah, he just opens.
Oh yeah,
his
and then mouth.
And just like
words.
I knew that it was going to be funny, but actually seeing it for the first time was like the funniest thing I've ever seen. And
yeah, like what? Okay, so Kyle's talking about Lane in live action is looking at a camera and saying the park will be released on, and then he mimes just opening and closing his mouth, and then you hear a robot voice say Saturday with a date that I can't remember exactly what it is.
And then
I think it was like May 31st or something like that.
So this is the rare episode that did that same thing where we have both live action and the text-to-speech voice. And
it seems to be a pattern
or
something.
Is that just what you did, Lane? You just did a text-to-speech?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And it's just as funny as it was in the past in the other episode.
For some reason, this like specific voice is so funny. The
It
words
sounds like it's from the 80s or 90s. Like text-to-speech has gotten so much better, and we're using the
Like on the
horrible
Mac, you
one.
could choose different voices that it could read in. So it would be possible
and for some
me
reason,
to go back and find it.
You choose this one that instead of saying game released, it says game release. And it's just the weirdest accent, and it will make me laugh every single time. Also, what's so funny about that, sorry, I'm just laughing, it's so ridiculous, is that somehow this company startup has a button a button that you press the button and the game is released everywhere.
And it's just open for anybody to walk up and press it.
They're all about efficiency.
It's just on every level ridiculous and makes me laugh every time.
The way that Lane's character reacts to it happening is like, oh well. He's like, he's not freaking out. He's just like, you released our game.
Yeah, and like they keep hyping this up as it's going to be the greatest thing ever, and it's so bad and everybody hates it, and just literally from start to finish that episode is so funny. And we were able to do live action, which I always love doing because Lane hates doing it, and just watching Lane
That's because I'm always the one who's in it.
I know, but like you
Usually.
always try to get us not to do it, but in the end Lane will relent when he knows that it's better.
When it's worth it.
Yeah, if it's worth it and it's better than what we would be able to do in the game, then we have to do it.
Yeah, we had to convince him that it was worth it for this episode, and it totally was, because it's so funny the way we use it.
Yeah, and it was something that I wanted to do for a while, which was get Lane to say, "I'm Lane the Thomas," as a reference to Marlin in the first episode, giving a tour of the house and saying, "I'm Marlin the Elite, here's a tour of my house." It's, "I'm Lane the Thomas," doing the same thing.
And it was basically ripping off the first episode of the series, because it was this character giving a tour. Like, that's the game they're working on, is touring the house.
Yeah, and that was another joke in the episode, is like, why would anybody want to play this game? Why would anybody want to watch somebody give a tour of their house? And yet that was the first episode of our show that took off.
Yeah, and that's why Marlin said that he liked it.
Yeah, so just on every level and every moment of this episode, spoiler alert, it is in my top 3.
There was also a Project Black Knight reference in there really quickly. I'm not sure
Really?
I'm pretty sure that ended up being in the final episode, but I think that was like the code name that they had
Oh, okay.
for the game.
Yeah, and for those unaware, Project Black Knight was our other machinima show that we were working on that was...
It failed.
It was going to be more of a drama rather than a comedy. And
It was going to be really cool.
It was going to be... We had, like, written, like, actual scripts for a bunch of episodes, and we filmed 2, I think, and 1 got edited and released, and then we just gave up.
Yeah, I think it was a situation like a lot of people find themselves in, where they come up with like something that's really cool and really grand, and then after they do one and realize how much work went into it.
Yeah, I think we just lost
the
the
enthusiasm
motivation to finish.
Yeah, exactly.
I
So
remember
what
that
we
we-
ended up finishing, it wasn't even, I think, the first episode. I think it was the prologue
Right. For some reason, we wanted to do a prologue.
that like set everything up for the first episode.
And it was going to be really cool. It was a cool story. I still remember it, kind of. But also, we had filmed an episode that didn't get released that was going to have a really cool, like, choreographed car chase in it.
Yeah, I do remember trying to like figure that out, because I think we had to do that over Xbox Live
Yeah,
to
I remember.
get
like,
as
I
many
ran-
players as possible.
Was
I
that the
ran
one that
home.
was on Sandtrap?
I remember running
Yeah, it
home
was.
to boot up our Xbox so we could.
Yeah, I
do it
remember
over
that
live.
too. God, that was so long ago. Okay, let's move on. Next episode.
Yeah. Okay. Next episode is Someone in Mind, the imaginary friend episode.
Oh my god. This was one that I didn't even, like, it was on our list of possible episodes to make throughout the season, and I didn't even want to do it because I thought it was
On paper, it sounded kind of stupid, to be honest.
Right. I was like, this isn't good. It's not very funny. And do you still have that list? Can you bring it up and read what it was by any chance?
I can bring it up. I have a feeling this is
we
my
had kept
concept.
a list of possible episode ideas.
Yeah, it was yours.
So yeah, we had a list of possible episode ideas to go through, and one of them was this one about Marlin has an imaginary friend. And
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I had the list up. This was what I originally jotted down. Marlin's old imaginary friend comes back to get revenge on Marlin for not believing in him anymore.
Yeah, now imagine imagine you're in my shoes and you think, well, that doesn't sound particularly entertaining at all.
Yeah, it didn't really sound like something that would be fun to do. And while making it, it just kind of felt like a normal episode. Like I didn't dislike it, but I didn't think it was going to reach the great heights that, of course, it ended up doing. And if you had heard beforehand, like I think we had talked about it on the podcast, and I think we had released a couple behind the scenes videos of me, and we were talking about just how there was one episode in particular where Lane, upon recording the voiceover for it, completely changed the character. So,
because when we were filming it, I was doing the voice because I was playing the character opposite Lane doing Marlin. So I didn't know we knew that Lane was going to do the voice.
Yeah, I guess Kyle was just doing like a regular voice. He wasn't doing anything special. It was just, here's the character I'm
placeholder.
Playing. Yeah. Right. And then we come over to record our lines, Lane having already done his lines. And what he decided to do for Mrs. Nilrum. Okay, already Mrs. Nilrum is pretty funny because it's Marlin's name backwards and then Mrs., but for no reason because he's a guy. And is he just Marlin's colors flipped? Or was he blue?
I think
it's like inverted.
I think it is his colors that are flipped, but Reach's colors are so messed up that it ends up looking like blue and gray.
Okay.
But I think it is blue primary, orange secondary.
Okay, so we come over and Lane has recorded the voiceover for Mrs. Nilrum as a super deep voice Australian guy, and his delivery on every line had me and Kyle cracking up so hard.
I think we were literally crying. Both of us.
Yeah, we were like rolling on the floor, crying, like can't get breath, and because just laughing so hard.
And I don't throw this word around, but we were literally ruffling.
Yeah.
I just caught the tail end of it on video, but
it was going on for quite a long time.
Yeah, you were like worse than that before I started filming.
Yeah. And the thing was, you also pitch shifted down, right? The lines. So you went deep
I did
and then
do a little
pitch
pitch shifting down to make it
and it's just
deeper.
Every line, and it's so funny anyway because this character who's not real is like abusive to Marlin. So he's like, you need to sleep downstairs tonight, and you need to.
I think you should get a motel.
Yeah, you need to leave me alone.
Yeah, and then there's the best one of all, which is when he says, "Oh, Marlin, I wish you didn't have to say that. You know that now I have to beat your ass." Okay, so that was the line. That was the line in delivery that had me and Kyle on the floor, and I think the reason it's so funny, other than the weird accent and the excellent delivery, is that what he's saying and how it's supposed to make sense, how like, I wish you hadn't said that because that now I have to beat your ass, like what, like like this has happened before. When you say these things, this is what happens. And oh man, it just like the game released, it will get me every single time.
Yeah, that voice, I think when I was trying to figure out what to do with it, with the character, I had tried something else. I forget what it was, but I think then I went back and tried to think of what accent haven't I tried to do in the show so far. And I think Australian was one of the ones that I felt like hadn't been used and that I could reasonably pull off.
So I just thought of another reason, another little joke in this episode that's so funny is after Mrs. Nilrum says, "I think you should get a motel tonight," you cut to Marlin at a motel and like the sound effects that's happening outside.
He's in some trashy ghetto neighborhood with
just like the worst motel imaginable. There's babies crying, people yelling, gunshots going off, it's raining,
siren too, right?
All that.
And then the other thing is that you got to imagine,
it's like the jokes just don't stop coming and you don't have time to catch your breath. I think that was another another reason it was so hard to get through that episode watching it, because I just couldn't breathe.
Yeah,
there was no time to breathe.
You have to imagine, we didn't know that any of that was coming until we were watching it. So, like, we didn't hear what Lane was doing when we were recording it. So it wasn't until the episode
because
was 100% done.
all
and
the
he was-
scenes with Mrs. Nilram are between him and Marlin. So me and Kyle, voicing the other characters, never heard him during our voiceover session. So it was always when we're done recording, then we sit back and we watch the episode. So when Lane hit play on the episode, we still had never heard Mrs. Nilram's voice.
And Lane was just sitting on that for hours as we were recording, not giving it away at all.
Yeah,
So
I
good.
feel like I wanted to keep that secret
Yeah.
until the grand reveal.
And then we liked him so much that we brought him back for one more episode, right?
So I guess with that, let's move on to the next episode in the docket. This is Mismatched. This is the episode that strands Jerry and Schmo together on the island.
Lane, this one was your idea, wasn't it?
Okay, yes. So this was my idea. Pretty much trying to, because we've had so many episodes, literally over 100 now. So I wanted to try and do something a bit different, and with characters that we hadn't seen a lot of, at least recently. And so I thought it would be interesting to get two of those characters together, and that especially we hadn't seen in the same setting, and then see how they would interact and go off of each other.
Right, because with over 100 episodes, we've filled out the world basically with a lot of characters.
And some of them had never interacted before.
Right, like secondary characters. So this was Schmo and Jerry. And I was adamant that Marlin had to be in the episode, even if it was just at the beginning and the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the same thing with the Revengers, where I needed, it was all about Corey and everyone in jail, but we still had Marlin in the beginning and the end, just so that, it's not an episode of Marlin the Elite without Marlin in it. And I remember, I think I said, like, nobody likes the episodes of The Walking Dead that Rick isn't in, and they always have a few of those every season, and it's like, you don't want to watch an episode of Marlin that Marlin's not in. So it was important to me that we got him in there. But still, the way that the whole episode plays out, I think it's really unexpected that, you would assume with what's happening at the beginning that there's some skydiving hijinks with Marlin, but it turns into something totally different.
One aspect of this episode that I really like is, well, first of all, I always love Jerry, and putting him in an episode is always a win for me because I like him and I like doing his voice. But his adamance, his insistence on as soon as possible going straight to drinking each other's piss, like how badly he just wants to make that happen. It just he so quickly just drank my piss. It's so funny.
If I could read a few comments from this episode, Halo 3 Owner 5 says, actually need to see other characters interact. I like this episode. And then Alpha Crusaders commented on that comment and said, I agree. This was a nice twist. So I'm glad that people enjoyed us doing something different. I have to say, this, for me, I feel like this is one of the lesser episodes of the season in terms of me personally liking like the final product. And I don't know how much that is of just me wanting to make it better, or if it's, only because other episodes are just that much better.
I have a fun fact about the behind the scenes of this episode, which is, it is, to my knowledge, now I could be wrong here, but I think it's the only episode that we had to split the voiceover recording with me and Kyle into 2 days. I'm pretty sure every episode we've done in 1 day, except for this one.
And of course the movie.
Yeah. Well, I was saying episodes.
Right.
The reason being, it was almost entirely an episode with me and Kyle. And so when we are the full episode, it takes so much longer to do that we split it into 2 days. Every other episode we can just do in one.
It's like what people don't realize is that a 10-minute episode can take like 3 hours to record all the lines for, just me and Kevin, because there's a lot of, figuring out what
we come up with new jokes,
right.
and then we have to memorize the lines really quickly, and then sometimes we stumble on saying them, sometimes we laugh, sometimes other people are laughing.
And then Lane wants a different, energy in the take.
Yeah, and then it's like after you record the line, listening back to it in the context of the other lines and making sure that it can work with the timing of how the episode's laid out.
And something that I'm very, very proud of throughout every episode and the movie is that I have never had to write down a line and read it when recording. I've always memorized everything, even monologues. Which we break up when we record it, but I've never had to write anything down.
It's difficult, though, if you do have to read off of something, because you also want to look up at the screen and kind of match what your voice with what the character is doing, and make sure that it also, like, Lane has already edited the episode, so we have a finite amount of time to say the line. And if we go over or go under and it's so perfect, Lane will make the adjustments, but usually we try not to do that. So if you're reading off something, you can't like look at how much space you have left in recording, and voiceover recording is pretty difficult.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, as time has progressed, I have been more, I guess, lenient in terms of like making changes after we record voiceovers and stuff.
Well, that's because you've gotten better at editing. You're more willing to do something because it's easier for you.
And the flip side of that is, as the director, he's also gotten more, I don't know what the word is I'm searching for.
He knows what he wants.
Yeah, he knows what he wants in the take. And so sometimes it takes a lot longer to get the line exactly the way Lane wants it, which is also part of why it might take 3 hour recording session for a 10-minute episode.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so the next episode, Law Breaking Citizen.
I believe this was actually the second to last one that we made, not the casino one.
That might be, although I remember this was one of the very last ones because we were desperately running out of ideas. And do you remember where we came up with it? You don't have to say it, but do you remember where we were?
I do.
I think so, but I'm not positive.
We were in the car with you when we were driving near a beach.
It was the place that we film all our summer movies.
Okay, I still don't remember that specific point, but
anyway, it was one of the
take your
last
word for
ones that we had shot because at this point we were running out of ideas and we were trying to come up with, like, it's once you've done over 100 episodes or even less than that, once you get close to it, you've already done everything and it's so hard to come up with something new. So I don't remember exactly what the idea was, but the episode ended up being really great. Like the premise being this is what it was. I remember. So I have always thought that this would be a great idea for a TV show because there really are stupid laws that make no sense and that you could break at any time and probably not get in any trouble. If you look up strange laws, there's all these ridiculous things that you can get away with doing.
Like you can't push a moose out of an airplane over some state. That's definitely a real law. And it all sounds like it comes from somebody did it once and they don't want it to happen again.
Yeah, and they're all like really old ones that just don't make sense anymore.
Apply anymore.
So I've always thought that would be a great idea for a TV show. Yeah, a great idea for a TV show is go show off these really strange laws and then go break them and see if you can get away with it or not because they're so ridiculous. And so then the idea was put this into Marlin, have there be a guy who does this as his TV show, he chooses Marlin's house to do this ridiculous strange law that we came up with, and then take him to court. And I think the real fun of the episode is the court scenes and how he's trying to worm his way out of something that he so clearly did, and he just keeps coming up with new ideas about how it wasn't really me, or it was a green screen, or we filmed it in slow motion. And then of course we bring back Devon Pierce.
Finally
really
get
fun.
to see him in action in a courtroom, because we introduce him as a lawyer, but you don't get to see it until this episode.
Yeah, and I think the best part of this episode is where, as the trial ends, and then Devon says like, "Oh, I've never lost a case. Can we, change it?" Like
he was gonna lose it.
Yeah, if we could. And then the judge is like, "Damn it, I love a good
streak."
Yeah, a good streak. Okay, mistrial. And then I don't remember if
I think I kind of ad-libbed.
Yeah, it was a Kyle ad-lib. He just says, yes.
2-0, baby.
Yeah. He had won
that
one
cracked
before.
me up a lot.
Yeah. He had won one case before and says that he's on a streak.
Also, this was one where, because we were running out of ideas, and we've done, like how many episodes of Marlin Gets a Job? Like, we've done a lot of stuff before, and we were like, oh, we haven't done a court episode yet. And it's like, wait, we did. Okay, well, we'll make it different. This time Marlin will be a witness. And we go back and watch the other one. It's like, we did this before. But we made it different enough.
Yeah, I think so. I think...
Yeah, see, like I said, it's so hard to come up with something that you haven't done before. So if you're going to do something again, it has to be
better,
a different way of doing it. So I think this episode is a success because it is so completely different. And then that other episode is so old that it's unwatchable anyway.
Yeah, it is a bit buried in the YouTube annals.
Well, no, it's not even on YouTube, is it?
I think that one is.
Oh.
If I remember correctly. I could be wrong, though. I just remember I made some court music for that.
Oh, I have a quick little fun fact about this episode is at the very end when, what's the guy's name? It's some G.
Jimbo Jam? No.
Goblin.
Oh, Goblin Goblinowitz.
Oh, yeah. That was
so when Goblin Goblinowitz gets approached by the police or whoever and says he's under arrest for tax evasion, I don't remember exactly what it is, but
it was
he does the evade. And he goes straight backwards, like around a corner. And what I did was I like evaded forward into the spot that he was going to be and set up exactly where I was looking so that I could just go backwards without looking and make it right there. So that was a fun little, figuring that out. And then I think you may have even sped it up in editing, so it made it look really fast the way he gets out of there.
Almost like a frog hopping away.
Yeah, I did a bunch of like retiming on that to try and make it so like he would exit more quickly, and then also try and cut down on like retime some of it so that after the characters exit, there's a certain amount of time before I think like Marlin turns around or does something. But yeah. And then also that he's literally evading from the tax evasion. Yeah.
I just got that now as I was explaining it is when I got it. Interesting.
Yeah, we didn't plan out that metaphor.
A joke so buried, I just figured it out now.
Going to the next episode, this is the writer episode.
Is that 8 or 9?
Write or Die. I feel like this was an episode we had made early on.
No, I mean in the order of the season.
In order, this is the second to last episode of the season.
Okay.
So do you remember who came up with the concept of this, or was it one of those group?
It may have been a group one because nothing's coming to mind.
Yeah, I'm not getting anything either. I remember that I had come up with
I think it was just
writer as the app. Just, drop the E, RIDR.
I feel like the idea just came out of us, brainstorming and trying to think of what haven't we done. And so we landed on doing a ride sharing app because when we had started Marlin and made the majority of episodes, this wasn't a thing, really. So I think it was just
It's like a
us
new
wanting to
idea
explore
that
that.
we can do something with.
Yeah, and it's fun because
yeah.
you can take the vehicles on a bunch of different maps and make a car chase, kind of like what we did in the Marlin movie, where you just go through a bunch of different maps, have fun with it, have fun with the editing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then I think when their driver, and his name is Piss, which is hilarious. If you can't tell, I think the word piss is pretty funny, so I try and slip it in there. Anyway, when he first shows up and he's late and he's like, you guys want some chips or you want a vape or whatever, just his whole demeanor is so weird. And I just think it works as something really funny.
I think my favorite part of this was just the showdown at the end and the big explosion. I'm really pleased with how that turned out.
And this was also one where there was the that throwaway joke at the end, the cutaway to the bus. There's no crazy people on the bus or whatever, and then there's just the total crazy
guy.
I
think wasn't that like a late edition where we had come up with it and we were like done filming, but we're like, oh man, this is really funny, let's go do it really quick, and we had to like quickly build a bus map.
Yeah, it was
set.
like we made like a quarter of bus interior.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
like the idea of just this guy screaming and spinning around and going,
because that is the type of person that you see on the bus.
Yeah.
And was the opening of the episode set on a map that you made for the movie?
Yeah, so I think it was based in that town square where the movie theater exterior was. And I'm pretty sure I made that specifically for the movie. But that was a modified version of a town center map that I had previously created. So then I guess we'll move on to the last episode that we both filmed and that aired in the season, and that's the torture chamber episode.
I love this episode, and it's got a great behind-the-scenes story. Lane, would you like to tell it?
Okay. So, as you do when you're growing up and you're hanging out with friends and stuff, you're running around playing on play equipment and stuff at the ripe old age of like 9 or 10, if not younger.
I would say younger than that.
Yeah.
And
Like 6 or 7.
so you like come up with, like games and stuff like that. And so in the backyard, we have this zip line that you could pretty much go sit like in this bike seat that we had rigged up and then go down this zip line. And
Well, it was like a swing seat, right?
Yeah, and it was fun. But then we decided to take it one step further, and we created this mini game called Torture Chamber.
Boys.
And this involved one person getting on the zipline swing seat. Only instead of sitting in it normally, you would straddle it like a saddle, and instead of going down the zip line, we would tie the zip line up so that you would go partway down, but then a rope would catch you, and then you would just be left hanging there suspended in midair. And the way you were sitting on the swing seat, it was not comfortable for a certain region of the male anatomy. And so pretty much you would see how long you could last hanging there before you begged or I don't know how you would describe it. How you would, before you would want to be relieved and cut loose and come down to terra firma again. And then
right, and
as the person was, so as this is all happening, at least for me anyway, I'm not sure about you guys, we were imagining this was like a game show like Survivor or something that was on TV.
Like Fear Factor.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so
the thing was,
yeah,
it had being a fake TV show, it had a theme song that we remembered the melody like 15 years later, and Lane was able to record it for the show, and that was, adding a bunch of lyrics, but it still was the same basic premise of our theme song from years and years ago.
Yeah, so when we were doing this, when someone was hanging there, we had pretty much sing torture chamber, blah, 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 and it was just that over and over again. So that really stuck in our minds, and maybe left some memories in other places as well.
Yeah.
I
That's a nice way of putting it.
I gotta say, I don't remember myself being the victim so much. I feel like I was
definitely me, Kevin.
more of
But
the, I don't know,
You were
a
just singing
bystander
the song
or
on
singing
the
the
side
song.
while
Yeah.
we were doing it.
Now, I feel like we might have some like Motorola Razr.
Oh, I do.
Cheap.
I have a video clip
Like
of
2
you in the torture
pixel.
chamber, Kyle.
Right.
You
Right.
probably
Well,
don't want
Lane,
that.
You should post that.
It'd be the resolution the size of a postage stamp. If that, I'd say it's like less than like 240p or something like that.
Yeah.
No,
it's potato quality for sure.
So anyway, all that to say that when we were looking for episode ideas, I don't remember who brought it up or if it was another one of those group decisions, but we decided, hey, you know what? We had always imagined this being a TV show. This is what a perfect premise this would be for a Marlin the Elite episode.
Right. And that we basically shot the entire episode as if it was an episode of the TV show and not an episode of Marlin the Elite, save for the final scene, basically.
Yeah, so we knew that like the final challenge had to be our typical torture chamber game, but then we had to come up with a couple other types of torture for the other torture chamber challenges, one of which was quite fun to do, which was do impressions. Oh, well, so it wasn't the challenge. It was something that me and Lane had to do. It was do impressions of our younger voices voicing Lemon Man and Marlin. And the torture chamber idea is that you have to listen to old audio recordings of yourself, because as people who have videos and audio of our old voices, we know that listening to that is pretty torturous.
Yeah, it's like no one likes to listen to their own voice anyway, but now make it 10, 15 years ago.
When we were kids.
It
sounded ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I know it sounds weird, but I have always been able to do an impression of young Kevin. So I kind of wanted to do that.
Kind of an
in the show.
over-exaggeration of it, but still funny.
Yeah. And then get Lane to do his old Marlin voice. So what you're hearing in the episode is not old recordings. It's new ones that we did for the episode.
And the character that Lane was playing, Ryan Seacrest, we had so much fun coming up with all his lines. And there's one of my favorite jokes, which was we do the commercial break, and it was thanks to Guns and Juicy Fat for keeping us alive.
Mm.
I swear, like, it's so funny to think about
Yeah,
what the joke is, but I didn't even mean it. I said it when we were like just like filming it, because we had this commercial break, and I was like, just thanks for keeping the show alive, basically. And then we were like, wait, that is so funny. So I can't. I mean, I can take credit for it, but I also can't, because it was an accidental joke, but it worked so well.
Yeah,
well,
and then I have a small penis.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle, I'm gonna give you pretty much credit for the Ryan Seacrest character, because
Right.
when we were doing the episode, you were the one who was controlling him and doing the voice. So pretty much what I recorded was pretty much just me reinterpreting exactly what you said, and you came up with a lot of funny stuff.
Thank you.
So I think we had determined very early on that this was going to be the season finale, and that we wanted to go all out in terms of making new sets and making this a memorable episode.
And we also, I remember I have memories of forging that set, that it was all one big thing together. It wasn't like all the challenges weren't like separate maps. It was all in one. And it was difficult to put that together. But
I was actually going to say that a real life form of torture was making that map, because it took so long. Like, I just wanted to be done, but it just kept going and going.
And having to figure out how we could get Marlin suspended exactly where we wanted him to.
Oh yeah, that was so difficult. So much testing.
Yeah, trying to get those grav lifts all set up just right.
And have it so that it looks like his crotch is hanging on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was
that
very
antenna.
difficult to get it to work exactly, but rewarding. And of course, it ends the only way it could, which is that he gives up 1 second before he would have won the prize.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I was still hanging on a little bit after. It's like, no, you said I give up. And then throwing in a Corey reference, of course.
Yeah, so I forget when we came up with the Corey idea, but having him have been dispatched, taken care of at the end of the Marlin movie, I think we still wanted to loop him in.
Feel his presence.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Feel his presence without him actually being around. So I think this was a good way to do that. And then we also flashed back to a lot of the other characters that we had visited over this season, like Marlin's grandparents, Schmo and Jerry, and Mrs. Nilrum in the imaginary jail cell,
which was also a repurposed set that we had made that for some other episode years ago, and we're able to just go right back in and use it. Do you want to read some comments from that one?
Yeah. I'll pull them up. Def Game says, "Damn, I remember these when I was a kid, and y'all still going."
Yeah, we get that comment a lot. That's a good one. That people.
Mm-hmm. Brit B says, "Oh my God, the memories."
Yeah, my favorite type of comment is when people say like, "Oh, I used to watch this with my friends." Like, we were making good memories for other people. Makes me feel good.
Yeah, or it's like saying, "I remember these watching them growing up, and like I haven't been keeping up for years, and then having them come back and finding out that there's still like new episodes coming out." And then saying how much they appreciate that and stuff is always, great to hear and really heartwarming.
Yeah.
So that was a in-depth wrap up kind of the season.
Yeah, that was fun.
And our thoughts behind it. We have done a few other things since then. I don't know how much you want to get into it. We did the Mountain Dew taste test videos that Kyle, you kind of spearheaded.
Mountain Dew and gaming goes really well together. I remember when we got to college, Kevin and I went to the same... Oh, we all went to the same school, but Kevin and I lived in the dorms. And it was, you don't turn on the Xbox without grabbing a Mountain Dew from the mini fridge.
The branding, marketing, it all worked.
Yeah, plus they did they introduced the game fuel in 2007 with Halo 3, so it goes really well
Kyle
together.
more obsessed with Mountain Dew than anyone I've ever met. He's like so into it.
I'm not the most. I don't have a tattoo or anything, but
You don't have
I
a
do look forward to
tattoo?
new flavors. No, I don't. I look forward to the new flavors, and I'll go out of my way to find them. If I know one's like at a Walmart 30 minutes away, I'll go get it.
And he's not kidding. That is true.
Yeah, no, it's happened multiple times. You know they released like 19 new flavors last year? Okay, anyway. Yeah, so we found I found a website where you can buy foreign soda, not just Mountain Dew, but like foreign snacks and sodas and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some Mountain Dew flavors that we don't get in the United States, so it was fun to be able to try those. And then there's also another thing that the three of us did, a project outside of Thomas Productions, but still the three of us. Kevin, you want to introduce?
Yeah, so this is very cool considering that I've always wanted to be a filmmaker and a director. So I directed a music video, and with the help of Kyle and Lane, we were able to shoot it and edit it and get it all done. So there's this band, and they're called Stroke 9. And what I think is the coolest thing about this whole thing is that me and Kyle have been listening to Stroke 9 since we were kids, since before Thomas Productions was ever a thing.
Right, their first major record release came out in 1999, and I think we were listening to it even back then, or 2000, when we would have just been like 7-8 years old.
Yeah, they had this huge hit called Little Black Backpack that played on the radio all the time. And so because it was playing all the time, and I think we also had the album, I knew the lyrics when I was like 7-8 years old to the whole song. So I've always known about this band. And to make a long story short, they basically asked me to direct a music video for them for their first album in over 10 years. They haven't released an album since 2007. Well, now they have. So basically I went to a Stroke 9 show, got in touch with them, exchanged emails, and that's basically how it got started. So they're working on this new album, and they were sending me like early demos and asking for my thoughts on what to do. And basically the idea that we ended up, or the video that we ended up shooting, was their idea. So what they wanted to do was they went to this secluded Northern California house / studio. It's a recording studio, but it's also a house. So you can just rent it out and record your music there and live there. And so they invited us up for a day. And while they were making their album, this is what was so cool about it, is we got to see them literally record parts of the album and watch their process and how they do this. And so that's what they wanted, was kind of a making of the album style video interspersed with a performance video. So they picked a song and they just sat down and played through the song a few times, and we got a bunch of different angles of that and a bunch of like basically documentary style footage of them making this album. And if you go to stroke9.com, or you can go to my website kevinbrio.com, or just Google Stroke 9, it's called Calafrio, Calafrio, is the name of their album, and the song and the music video. You can look that up, and it was just so much fun to work on like a real official music video for a real band.
Yeah.
The day that thousands of people are going to see.
The day that we shot that, it was so cool because it was literally just the four of them in the band and the three of us at their studio.
Yeah, there's no like record producers or video producers watching over you saying, you have to do
that
this.
That day was one of the best days of my life.
It was so much fun.
Just getting to hang out with these guys who I've been listening to for 20 years. And now it's like, now they're like friends. And, like Kevin gets texts from the singer.
Yeah, he'll just text me. It's so weird. It's so strange. It sounds like it's a not true story, but I mean, the evidence is there on the internet. We have a video that we made.
It's surreal.
I have to say, like, I hadn't heard of Stroke 9 before you guys.
Actually, you had. I have a specific memory of being with you in a car many years ago. Like I want to say 2010, and we were playing Stroke 9 for you in the car. Just so you know.
Okay.
But
I'm
go
sure
on.
that's correct. It vanished from my memory. But having said that, I didn't grow up listening to them. So I was coming at it from a different angle, but I can't imagine what you guys must have been feeling as we're, making the video and stuff.
Yeah, it's already cool to be doing an official music. This is
for any band.
Yeah, it's the official music video, and they're a real band, and they have fans all over the world, and thousands and thousands and thousands of Facebook followers and Twitter followers, and they're a famous band. And so already doing a music video for something like that is so cool. But then for it to be a band that I have known forever, and that's also my first music video. The first music video I ever did was for a band that I've loved my entire life. It just doesn't get better than that. It's so cool.
And the song's really catchy too.
Yeah.
It's such a good song.
The whole album is great.
The song, even though I've heard it 5 million times from editing the music video and all that, I don't get sick of it. It's such a good song.
Yeah, I remember first hearing it when we were during filming, and it immediately caught my attention.
Yeah, the first time when they said, "Here, we're gonna do this song," and they just played the early scratched, super rough demo version of it, and even that was this is so good. This is gonna make such a good video, and they were right.
Plus, it was fun. We got to play around with a bunch of our equipment that we have been acquiring over the years, like the slider and the crane and a bunch of different lenses that you have for the camera. We rented another
slow motion.
Yeah, slow-mo, and we rented another camera so that we could shoot two at the same time, but it was the same model so that the image was the same. And they had also sent us some footage that they got on their iPhones that we could put in there as well, some of the vertical videos. That there's a part where we have 3 of them across the screen at the same time, and then when we were done shooting, we a week or so later went out in the car and got footage of just around the area that they could use as well. So that was fun.
Since we're on the lines of other projects kind of outside the realm of TP right now, Kevin, you had a new short film that we had filmed last May, I think it was, and we had finished it up in December, and I think as per kind of guidelines for a lot of festivals, we were keeping that off of the internet for a while, but then under the circumstances that we find ourselves in right now, you decided to release it for a limited time.
Yeah, so, and quick fun fact, we actually finished filming 4 days before we filmed the Stroke 9 video, so we were pretty busy in that time. Yeah, so last summer we shot what is my biggest project to date and my favorite of my own short films. It's an idea that from the conception to finishing editing, it was 12 months. So it was a lot of work and something that I am so excited about. It's my favorite of my projects, like I said. It's a really, really deep, themes, and it was just so exciting and so much fun to work on every aspect of, from writing the script. Well, even before writing the script, coming up with the concept, it took me a month and a half before I had the full story down, because it was so much work getting everything just to work.
I remember Kevin and I would go on walks around the neighborhood late at night, just talking about we need to get from here to here, what happens, and I would say oh, you could do the rose petals. Yeah. And so it wasn't just, oh, I have an idea, let's write it down. It was, we got to think through it and take a long time. And I believe Lane has posted the link on Thomas Productions social media, so if you follow us, you can check it out while it's public, right?
Yeah. Maybe once this episode goes live, I'll repost it again so it's more recent. But it's definitely gone out on our Twitter and Facebook and probably Instagram too.
So one thing that is so interesting to me about this short film that I did is that I'm in it. And in all of our TP videos, like, I know how to act, right? I've been acting since I was like 7, but it's all been comedies. I've never done really dramatic acting. And
well, there was Project Black Knight.
That's voiceover. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so my short films, if you've watched them, they're pretty much all dramas. And so I'm being serious. When I wrote the script, I was not thinking about casting. I had zero intention of putting myself in the movie. But once I read through my first draft, there was one character in it, and I was like, oh my God, this guy is so cool. Like, not to toot my own horn, but he's so well written. He like stood out to me as somebody who just seems like would have been a blast to play. So I actually wrestled a little bit for a while. I was like, should I take this role away from a trained professional actor who's going to do a great job and give it to myself? But I knew that in between writing it and filming it, I would have about 3 months to prepare. So that's what I did. I took 3 months to start going to the gym and working out, not because I was like self-conscious about the way I looked, but the character was somebody who
was jacked.
Would have, well, not jacked, but he would be more muscular than me. So
more imposing.
For the first time in my life, as embarrassing as that is to say, I started working out, and I maybe gained 10 pounds or so, but it was all muscle. So physically, I looked very different, not just in my body, but I also spent the last 2 of those 3 months growing out a beard. So, and I got this like slick haircut where I buzzed the sides and back, and I like slicked back my hair. And we also put makeup on me, so I had like these disgusting bags under my eyes, and I looked very different. I looked very menacing. And again, this sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but I'm honestly surprised at how good my acting came out, on screen. Although, honestly, I'm surprised. I'm very proud of the way it turned out.
And there's also, like, in casting yourself, you're eliminating one person from the call sheet, which makes producing a lot easier because you don't have to worry about this one more person if you're finding time for them to be available to shoot.
That was one of the reasons I wanted to do it, was I knew that it would make it a little bit easier, just one less person trying to figure out, can you show up on this date? Because I know I'm going to be there already.
When the 3 of us make a movie, it's so easy because it's just 3 of us. We can, find a time to do it. But when we do these projects where we have a cinematographer and actors and, all the people you need on a set, like with, catering and everything, it takes a long time to find a day for that everybody is available at the same time. And the more people you have, the harder it is to do that.
So it was about a 25 or 26 page script. It's about a 20-minute movie, and we shot it over 4 days, which, again, is any of my other short films were only shot over 2 days. So we doubled the shooting time and more than doubled the length of the video. I think my longest video before was 10 minutes. So, again, this is my biggest and the project that I'm most proud of. And because of this whole quarantine right now, I figured people need something to watch. So I quickly looked up the festivals to see if it was okay if this one is public temporarily, and it is. So for now, while we're all quarantined at home, you can watch this video. But as soon as it's over, I'm going to try to erase all evidence of it being online. So watch it now while you can. I highly recommend it because it's a really fun watch, and I've shown it to other people. And the most recent person I showed it to, I don't know if I told you this, Kyle, he screamed at the ending. Yeah. I was off somewhere else, but he was in the same room, and I could hear him listening to it. And right at the end, he went, "Oh!" It
at
really
the
cool.
climax of
Do I
it.
know who that is?
Yeah, right at the climax.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely check that out. But not quite to be outshone. Kyle, we recently filmed a project that you came up with. Is there anything you want to
and it's not public right now.
in that regard?
It's not public right now, but I can tell you, I had an idea that was heads or tails, which is a game of luck only. That what if we do like a football style broadcast, like, you know, how a football game, which is 60 minutes, takes 4 hours to get through an entire game. So what if, you know, this game that is literally 2 seconds long, it's like a 7-minute video with like commentators and introductions of the players, and then we have a referee and a sideline reporter. So yeah, it's a comedy, and I won't say anything beyond that, but it's private right now because I have submitted it to a few festivals. But those should all be done, I think, by the at least end of the summer. So we'll make it public. And you'll be able to check it out.
Well, if I could say a few words
Sure.
about this project. From the beginning, I knew it was going to be really funny just because the idea is funny. And when I like reading the script, you're laughing out loud because it's ridiculous and it's hilarious. And like he says, the football style broadcast and how we're taking this game of luck only and making it such a spectacle. Like how if you've watched football and like how into it everybody gets, the announcers, all this, it's ridiculous. And so putting that into just this dumb little coin flip and the huge spectacle that goes into it, I think is
Right.
absolutely
And
hilarious.
I knew that Kevin and I had so much fun doing the commentators for the Jack of Cards video that we did that we wanted to do that again. So yeah, it's me and Kevin playing basically, not by name the same characters, but basically in spirit the same characters that we did there. Just the way they talk over each other, and it's ridiculous and a lot of fun. So yeah, we had fun with that. Editing went very smoothly, very quickly, because the footage that we got was so great. And, we got some outside actors, people that we had worked with before. But yeah, a lot of fun. So we'll make that public soon and you'll get to see it.
But there is one more little video that we did.
Yeah,
The cool
60
video?
second long one.
Yeah. So
There's a fun story behind it.
Yeah. You may have seen this one. It's a video of me and Lane on the street where I play this guy who he's like, God, how do you even describe him? Okay, I'll tell the behind the scenes story. Me and Kyle got out of the car outside a restaurant, and I just completely fake just started getting into it with him.
Just jokingly.
Yeah, just jokingly. And
The kind of thing that we do all the time.
So and it ended with me saying, "You think you're cool? I'll show you cool." And then I pretended to kick up really high, like I was going to kick him in the face. And then also pretended to tear my groin and then say, "Take me to the hospital." And
Well, I think that came slightly later, but we kept talking about it because it was so funny.
we could not stop laughing. And I mean for days, for 4 or 5 or probably even more than that.
It was less than a week after we did that we shot it, but it was still every day was just, texting each other at work, making each other laugh, just texting, "Take me to the hospital."
Yeah. So the idea of Lane, you have no dialogue in this. It's just me hyping myself up and getting mad at you for no reason. And I'm getting more and more angry at you as you just stand there and stare at me and don't say anything. It's just the concept was so funny that we knew we had to do it. And luckily when we presented it to you, you were as into it as we were.
And I'm remembering that this kind of thing has happened before, where Kevin and I one time were eating at a restaurant talking about how the food is going to make it poop, which turned into, what was it? I'm forgetting what the movie is called, but it's the...
Cook You.
Oh,
yeah. Where he's on the toilet
Oh, yeah. Okay.
having a horrible experience because of what he ate.
And it was also when we did the hotel video, the sunny
Sunny
Paradise.
Sunny
Yeah, Sunny
Paradise,
Paradise.
something like that.
That was like
Yeah.
5 years ago.
But that was the same
Like
situation
last
that
week.
the old hotel video. It was actually 2 videos that we did. Of we were actually staying in a real hotel that was really that bad. Like everything that we presented was real.
Yeah, it was like
Literally, the bathroom did not have a lock on it. How is that real?
And it was just,
yeah.
being the filmmakers that we are, we couldn't just complain about it. We had to market it.
Yeah. Passive aggressively make a video about it.
And then we were only going to do one, but we went out to dinner and thought about more things that we could say and turn into an apology where everything is still wrong. I still watch that from time to time because it's so funny, and it's so we wanted to make it so low budget that you can see the cameraman in the mirror, not even trying to hide himself. It's so good. And knock knock, who's there? What was it? It's
it's quality.
regret
I think I was.
Yeah.
It's
but
me
then
quality.
In the second one, you come out of the closet and you're like, knock knock, who's there? You say some other regret or something like that.
It wasn't that.
I'll look it up really quick.
So yeah, I was really happy about how the "When You Think You're Cool" video turned out,
Mm-hmm.
and
it's short enough that you can just put it on Instagram, but it's also on our YouTube page.
yeah, it was a bit liberating to just make something that was just short and sweet.
Yeah, kind of like stuff that we used to do, like the Frisbee Pros. We just go outside and shoot something really quick. Except now we have a $2,000 camera that makes it look a lot nicer.
Okay, I found it. It's honesty.
Oh,
Knock, knock, who's
honesty.
there? It's honesty. Coming out of the closet. It's honesty. Alright, that was a lot of fun.
I think that's all of our video
Well, we also
projects.
did the messages from quarantine.
Oh yeah, that was
which-
just a short
Yeah.
short
Basically,
thing.
the first day of the shelter in place was announced for our place of residence. We were like, what are we gonna do? And just decided to make a video about the things that we're using to entertain ourselves, because it's hard to just not
Yeah,
go
so
outside, or
you-
we can't visit each other even though we live right across the street.
yeah,
Sometimes
so
we go over and play cards or play Halo or whatever, and we can't do that now. So go ahead.
yeah, so you had come up with the idea and just said, "Hey, we'll film our things separately and we'll send them over to you, and you can film your thing." So I thought that was a good idea to do something quick and easy to put out. And I feel like, I don't want to speak for anyone, but I feel like there's potential for more, depending on how long we're stuck inside and how crazy we get.
No, actually, as soon as I saw yours, I went into my fridge and I saw 2 cartons of milk, and I wanted to film myself being like, so Lane isn't, rationing his milk, but I am. And then I was going to be like, oh no, here he comes. Lane, stay 6 feet away. But, yeah, now that I gave it away, we can't do that, but we can think of other things too.
I want to mention something that I've been doing. I knew at the start of this quarantine that I wanted to come up with a movie idea that I can write so I can have a project to work on, a script. And whether or not I'm ever going to make it doesn't matter to me. I just want to have something to work on. So it took me a really long time to come up with something, but I did. And here's the interesting thing about it. Something I decided I was going to do was I figured I could make it a big enough idea to make it a feature-length script. And so what I've been doing, Lane, I'll show you this, because we're doing this over Skype, and Lane can see me, even though you can't. I am rereading this, which is my course textbook, which I kept from my first intro to beginning screenwriting class. So I'm hoping that, and I'm literally rereading the entire thing. I'm almost done with it. It's pretty short. It's 180 pages. So I'm just taking it a chapter or 2 at a time. So I'm hoping that reacquainting myself with the basics will make for a really good script. And again, so this is going to be it's going to be a feature-length thing, and it's much more high concept than what I've done before, so I probably won't ever end up shooting it, but I just want something to work on.
You know, I remember I was taking this exact same class from the same teacher online, like a year after Kevin took it, and our sister was getting married in another state, and I just have this memory of reading the chapter that I had to read for class on the plane so I could take the online quiz once we landed.
Which chapter was it?
I don't remember. I just have that memory, which was like 5 years ago now. Or no, more than that.
Interesting.
Or yeah, about 5 years ago. Yeah, so that's what Kevin's been working on. I haven't really been doing
I haven't
anything.
started writing it yet, but I have it all plotted and outlined and ready to go. I'm just going to finish reading the textbook first.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been working on.
It's going to be really bad when you get to the last page and it says, throw out everything you just wrote or came up with. So we've gone on quite a bit talking about our own stuff. Did we want to cover any entertainment that we've been consuming?
On the first day of the quarantine, Kevin and I started watching Westworld, which I had heard from a friend was very good, and we're just watching one episode at a time. But forget everything you think you know about how many genitals you can fit in 1 hour. There's so much nudity in this show, but it's like high concept. You got to really pay attention when you're watching it, but it is so fascinating and so interesting. And it's like, you know, this friend had told me that season 1 is like the perfect season of television. And through the first few episodes, you're like, all right, maybe it'll get like that eventually. And then the last few episodes, it's twist after twist after twist. And in the season finale, there is something that is like gasp-inducing, jaw-dropping, just unpredictable. You just can't see it coming.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you go back and watch the whole season, you're like, oh, it makes sense. But in that moment, it's like, oh my God, that was way well done.
Yeah, in the second or third to last episode, there was a twist that I even said out loud, like, I know this is coming. It's pretty obvious. And then in the last episode, they just get you with something that is so unpredictable. I turned to Kyle, like I was smiling so wide. I was like, I never would have seen that coming. It's unpredictable. Very, very excellent twist.
Yeah. So we're a few episodes into season 2, which is much bigger in scale. It's like the aftermath of this huge thing that happened in the finale. And fairly entertaining. Recommended if you've never seen it. Wayne, what have you been watching?
So for the past few months, I've been starting to delve into The Sopranos. I've never seen that show before.
I believe that was something that we had recommended to you as well.
And it's pretty much, I think, considered like one of, if not like the best like drama TV shows.
Yeah.
Ever.
There's often a debate between The Sopranos and The Wire, and more recently Breaking Bad. I consider Breaking Bad to be the greatest TV show of all time, having seen The Sopranos. However, The Sopranos is up there. It is a fascinating show that, as I'm sure, Lane, as you're working your way through it, is much funnier than you would think it would be.
Yeah, especially like from the very first episode. It's like, it's all like, you know, dealing with crime stuff, but then it's also like lighthearted and has some,
it's
like funny moments and family dynamics and stuff, which is probably why it's so popular and so good.
I'm very nostalgic about watching that show. It's been like 5 or 6 years since I've seen it, and I've always kind of wanted to rewatch it because it is just so much fun. And like this whole quarantine, I know that a lot of people are catching up on shows that they never have seen, and I hope that everyone who's ever wanted to watch The Sopranos and now has the time should do it now, because it is a must-see show.
Yeah, so I just started season 3 recently, and so far it's good.
Yeah. Now, Lane,
and then
go on.
I'm not sure how much longer we want to go on. Probably not much more. But I have to say, one thing that I did watch which I had been meaning to check out, but it was just kind of like in the back of my mind, is the Apple TV show For All Mankind. And that's the one with the it's the premise of, if back in the, it starts and takes place in 1969, and the concept is, instead of us landing on the moon first, the Russians were the first ones to land on the moon, and what that would kind of like do to the American psyche, and because of that, what events might follow it in sort of this alternate universe that would play out afterwards. So,
that's interesting. I feel like I honestly haven't heard of this show. I'm looking it up right now.
It sounds like Man in the High Castle, like alternate history, alternate reality.
Yeah, exactly. So I know when Apple did all their big keynotes and stuff, they showed off all their Apple TV shows. And that was the one that looked the most appealing to me, because I was, and kind of still am, really into like NASA and the space race stuff. So that was the one that looked most appealing to me. But
I didn't even know that you. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Based on the trailer, it still seemed just like okay. Kevin, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I didn't know that you had gotten Apple TV. I mean, is it still just a trial for you, or are you?
Yeah. So I wouldn't have checked it out at all, except actually, since the last podcast, I finally upgraded to a new iPhone, because I had the iPhone 6 and the battery was kaput on that. So
it was worse than you could imagine. I know what Lane is talking about. It was so bad.
So I don't know how long this offer lasted, but with the purchase of a new Apple device or something, they gave you a year free of Apple TV.
That's very generous. Wow.
I had just kind of like forgotten about Apple TV, but recently I went back and said, you know what? I have this for free. I might as well check it out. So I watched the whole season, and it is very, very good.
How many episodes is it?
It's 10 episodes.
Can you compare it to Man in the High Castle for me?
In terms of quality?
Like, if it's another alternate reality show, how does it compare to that one?
Yeah.
Is it similar? Is it better? Is it worse?
I would say it's hard to say, because Man in the High Castle is 4 seasons, and you can kind of see how it might have degraded in certain aspects over those 4 seasons. This is just 1 season. So what I would compare it to is, if Man in the High Castle, where that show starts off, it takes place like 20 years or so after there was that kind of like fork in the road where the Nazis and the Axis powers won the war. This one takes place like right as that split happens. So it takes place exactly when the Russians land on the moon, and that's where the starting point is. And so then it's more of like a slow progression of where things might go, rather than starting you off in that alternate space where things are different. It's more of starting where things diverge, and then seeing how the evolution is different than how things actually played out. Cool. So I would say, absolutely, if you have Apple TV already, absolutely check this out. I feel like now that I've seen this season, I feel like it was good enough for me to warrant when a second season comes out, to, at I think the very least, re-up once all of season 2 has come out, just so I could see it all, because I feel like it was that good to me that I would want to continue it.
So one more thing I want to talk about before we wrap up is how are you enjoying Control?
Oh yeah, so I'd started playing this game Control that you had lent me. I don't think I'd ever heard of it before you brought it up. But so far I'm really liking the vibe of it. It's
one of the most unique games I've ever played. Very different from anything you've seen before.
It's very much. I know you haven't seen both Lost and The Leftovers.
Yeah,
those are both like TV shows that kind of take place in universes where things are amiss, and universes where things are off, but it doesn't like tell you all of it up front. It kind of just unfolds over the course of the length of it. And so that's what I'm enjoying about this game, is where it drops you in and you realize, okay, stuff's not normal here, and you're not really sure what is going on, or what the context is of all this weird stuff. But then having it slowly unfold before you and discovering stuff as the game progresses, and then also having it deal with like these supernatural alternate dimension type aspects. So,
and it's so cool.
I'm really finding that fascinating.
Yeah, they have a bunch of cool, like the gun is a, changing. You can change it from like a pistol to a shotgun and stuff. Now, and I implore you, do as much exploring and side quests as you can, because a lot of them will unlock new powers that you wouldn't get just from doing the main story.
That is good to know, because I had been holding out or off on those and just been doing the main storyline so far.
You got to do them. The most useful one, I'll tell you, if you get one that they tell you about like a merry-go-round horse. You got to do that, because the power you get there is so useful.
Okay, I will keep an eye out for that one, definitely.
Yeah.
So I don't play through games that quickly, so I probably have a lot more to go on this, but so far I'm liking it.
Okay.
So I feel like there's a lot more we could talk about in terms of what we've been watching and stuff, but we've gone on a good while on this podcast, actually. So I feel like now's a good time to wrap it up for now.
Sure. I agree. All right. Well, till next time, I'm Kyle.
Yeah. Not quite. I have to plug our stuff first.
Sure, of course.
If you still use Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/Thomas Productions and see our stuff there. Also, twitter.com/Thomas Pro Inc. And then a relatively new thing. We might have mentioned it on the last podcast. We now have an Instagram. That's instagram.com/Thomas Pro Inc. You can go there. We've been a little more active on there. But usually we try and disperse our posts across all of those three. And then, of course, youtube.com/Thomas Productions. All right. So,
well, like I was saying, I'm Kyle.
Yeah, I am Kevin.
I'm Lane. And stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane.
Wash your hands and don't touch your face.
Oh, you told me that now. Yeah. I just licked all 10 of my fingers and toes.
All right, well, goodbye.